Back to Daybreak on Trust TV. We'll now take a look at the economy, where the CBN has been in a sustained fight against inflationary pressures. And of course, it's in that vein that on Tuesday, it further raised the monetary policy rate, that's the MPR, by 100 basis points to 16.5% from the 15.5% it was on earlier. Now, CBN Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, who disclosed this while speaking to the media on the outcome of the Apex Bank's Monetary Policy Committee meeting, added that the Apex Bank, will continue to raise the MPR until the inflation rate abates. Now, financial analyst Mukhtar Mohammed joins us now to discuss the CBN's decision on the economy so far. All right, Mukhtar, good morning. All right. So the CBN recently raised the MPR again by 100 basis points. The MPR has been raised most recently to get to the 15.5% that it was on earlier, and now we have it at 16.5%. The earlier raises that were made to the MPR, what sort of impact have they had on the economy, and do we expect this to have the desired impact as well?
Yes, if you look at it month to month, you've seen the impact. In July, we're doing month to month at 1.28%. And that's the last time the CBN raised hike in October, we're having it at 1.42. So you could see that month to month basic, we've seen the impact on that. But when you look at year to year, you see that it is still higher than what we obtained last year, quarterly, than what it is now. Will it have an impact? I think the CBN is looking at if we don't raise the hike, we don't raise rate at this time because of the festivity period, what we gain from July to this may be eroded because there'll be a lot of spending in this period. I think that's what they are looking at. And again, globally, you also should know that globally we've seen an inflationary pressure on global economy all over the world, and then Nigeria will not be an exception. Financial market because of this inflation. I think the CBN is looking at that. Also, they are looking at the Russia-Ukraine crisis also, and also the zero policy of China for COVID. We are not seeing that affecting the market in the short term now, but in the long term, we might see that playing a big role in the market. And then you look at our own consumer index also has gone up again. So they are looking at that on how to reduce that, and also looking at this, like I said, the festivity period also is coming, whereby there will be a lot of spending. So I think they are looking at that to make sure that we're able to bring down the rate. Will we see a drastic reduction in the inflationary rate in the short term? No, you can't see that yet, but you can see that there's been an improvement month to month basic. That's what would translate to year, but it's not something that will happen suddenly, because inflationary figure didn't just happen suddenly.
All right. So, can we still expect more raises to the rates now, since you said it's actually having some impact, and can we still expect more now?
I think we might have in the first quarter, but I don't think the inflationary pressure will be so much. You know, at the end of at the beginning of the next year, when the CBN will come to sit in the January meeting, they would have looked at how it played out during the festivity period. I think what they get at that time, based on what the Bureau of Statistics will come out with, that will be what will determine whether we'll have a raise hike. But if you look at it we are looking at it now, remember that from January, we'll begin to see the impact of the flooding on our economy, especially in terms of food price. So we might see hike, but I don't think it will be like the kind of hike that we have seen through this month. Thus far, this is the highest hike in over 2 decades that the CBN have done, by 500 basic points. The only economy in the world that has done higher than us is Ghana, which has done 1,000 basic points. So definitely, I think they might not be the kind of hike that we are seeing through this year, but definitely we could have some hike to bring down inflation in the short term.
All right. So apart from the raising the MPR, are there any other things that we can actually do, or the CBN can actually do as the Apex Bank to be able to check the inflationary rates? We all know that there's actually no silver bullet to do this, but are there any other things that they can put in place to make sure that we can have this kind of bait either in the long or short term?
The short term, they need to address the supply gap in the FX market, knowing that about 80% of what Nigerians consume, we actually import it into the country. So as long as that exchange rate volatility is still there, we'll continue to see inflationary figure go high. And like I say, we are not even looking at the China side, knowing that most Nigerians businessmen import their product from China, so there could also be a delay because of the zero policy from China. Nobody's looking at that. That also could cause inflationary pressure, especially in the area of price and volatility of goods and services. So definitely, what I think the CBN should do is to look at how to address this FX volatility. They have not really addressed it, and they have been shying away from it thus far. They seems to have been doing a lot that they think is not. Even if you agree with me that what we have in the parallel market is not a true reflection of the naira to the dollar, but then it's what it is. So we need to do something about it. It's speculators that are driving that space. We need to address those speculators, and I mean and we can only address speculator by coming up building the fundamentals of your economy. Once the fundamental of your economy is strong, the speculators will lose out. But as it stands now, they are still seems to be in a dark on what to do, though they are using the recent redesign of the Naira to address that. That can go in the short term, but in the long term, they have to come up with a long-term solution to the challenge of FX volatility. Knowing that the volatility we are seeing now was started this upward trend, immediately they revoked the license of the bureau de change, where CBN say will no more be giving FX to bureau de change. And they did not create a market for those people that normally patronize the bureau de change to begin to patronize the FX market seamlessly. Even if they say they've created the market through the Form M, the processes are very long. And when you're in business, time is a factor. So people still go to the bureau de change to get FX because of the slimming nature, the time frame whereby you can get your FX. So that is a challenge, and I think the CBN should look into that and see how they can address that challenge. If they are able to address that challenge, then we could see this inflationary pressure comes down. But as it stands now, the inflationary figure will still be going up. And again, the physical side need to do something. In every economy in the world, once the monetary policy comes up with their policy, the physical side, what they do is to begin to come up with policy that will reduce the burden on the citizens. And we have not seen that from our own physical side, especially now that governments have taken the back seat and we are just moving towards the election year. So unless they do something, we'll continue to have this trend.
Okay, thank you, Mukhtar. Now, yesterday the new Naira notes were unveiled, and the CBN governor is saying that this would help add value to our currency. In your assertion, what impact would this have on our economy?
I don't understand what he means by value. Maybe it will give us more branding, because the value of your currency is not based on your design, it's based on the purchasing power of your currency. So how much of that Naira can you purchase, and how much of that Naira can you exchange to the dollar and purchase? So I don't see that bringing value. And maybe we talk about when a corporation do rebranding, doesn't mean the corporation have changed. It needs to change its values to improve a lot of things so that its value also will go hand in hand with its rebranding. So what we're saying that we have rebranded the Naira, but we need to do something that is fundamentally wrong with our economy for that to have value. I don't think just change of currency design will create value to your currency. No, it will not. It will not. So I don't agree with that aspect of him, saying that it's going to create value for us. No, the value of your currency is not based on the design of your currency. It's how much what your currency can be able to purchase for you. How much power does your currency gives to you? That's what makes your currency valuable, not by the redesigning of the currency.
All right. So one of the major factors that led to the redesigning of the currency was the fact that there was 2 point something trillion in circulation that was outside bank vaults. and this is actually an effort to bring that back into the banking system. If this money is mopped up and they go back into the bank vaults, how much of a impact will that have on the economy, on maybe inflation, and of course the value that we're talking about?
Well, I think we are not seeing that money being come. Rather, we have seen that a lot of funds are still leaving the banking space. If you look at the CBN reports some 2 days ago from one of the national dailies, it seems to be, but we've not achieved anything yet with that. But maybe in the long term, we'll begin to achieve that. I definitely hope so, and I think it will happen. That's a tool that you use to reduce inflation by mopping up liquidity. And once you don't have control over your liquidity, then it's a challenge of addressing inflation. And I think the CBN have waited too long to do that. Now, what we are going to see is that a lot of the funds that were outside the banking space will they really find their way into the banking space. That would be a very uphill task, especially if some of these funds are not gotten in illegally. Like what you have, some of these funds are funds from terrorists, some of these funds are from banditry, some of these funds are from corrupt Nigerians that are involved in illegality. And those are the funds that are driving the exchange rate higher, because most of the funds that are driving the exchange rate higher, so that's the Naira to the dollar, are not in the banking space. They are outside the banking space. So if the CBN is able to achieve that, to bring them into the banking space, that also will help in reducing the inflationary figure. But will they be able to achieve it? I hope so, if they put system in place, because the Nigerian factor will always come in, especially with the bank, when you have an INET customer telling you that, look, I need to change my currency. I need to get it back, even if I'm keeping it at home and bringing it to your bank. Will the banks be ready to work with the CBN? A lot of things need to be put in place. The political will to take the right decision. I think the president have started with that by when he said he was aware of it, and he say he stands strongly behind the CBN over the redesigning of the currency. I think the CBN also need to up their game and get the banks to get themselves involved, and tell any bank that if you are found not reporting high transaction like you are supposed to do, you'll be fined or you'll be sanctioned. That could be the turning point. But I am afraid of the Nigerian factor, not really whether we'll be able to achieve it. If we are able to achieve it, I think it will be good for our economy, especially in the area of mopping up liquidity, then also in the area of controlling the volatility in the exchange rate. Like I said, most of the Naira that are chasing the dollars are not in the banking space. And that is why, because this money were gotten illegally, these people want to change it to the currency that Nigeria has no control over. Remember that we saw the rate move from 900 to 680 because of a rumor that came up that the United States is going to be no more collecting currency that are obtained in 2022. And you saw that how that brought down those exchanges. So what we have control over is our Naira. What we don't have control over is the dollar from other economies. But if we are able to control the inflow of the Naira that are chasing the dollar, then it's going to be a win-win situation for us in 2 ways. One, we'll be bringing down the inflationary figure, and then number two, we begin to reduce the exchange rate between the Naira and the dollar, especially in the parallel market.
All right, so thank you very much, Mukhtar Mohammed, for those insights into the economy, and we do hope things will pick up. Thank you very much for coming on the show this morning.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, and on that note, that's how we're going to wrap it up on a Daybreak this morning on Trust TV. Hope you had a wonderful time being there with us and, of course, enjoying what we brought to you this morning. Let's do it all again tomorrow. I am Ibrahim Yusuf.
And I'm Zainab Bala. See you tomorrow.